There is a specific group of people who occupy a unique temporal slipstream. They vividly remember the physical resistance of a rotary phone dial and the tactile frustration of winding a stray cassette tape with a pencil, yet they were young enough to watch the internet reshape the fabric of everyday life in real time. For years, psychologists and sociologists struggled to categorize this cohort. If you were born between 1976 and 1985, you likely sit at the jagged edge of Generation X, yet you never fully identified with the avocado toast tropes of the millennials. You are close enough to both worlds to understand them, but you are not quite at home in either. By the mid-2010s, researchers began using the term Xennials to describe this in-between group. Some label it a microgeneration because the window is so narrow, a mere decade. However, what occurred during those specific formative years created a shared psychological blueprint that is surprisingly distinct. To understand the Xennial mind is to explore the intersection of developmental psychology, neuroscience, and the rapid evolution of social structures. Your early years unfolded in a world that moved at a fundamentally slower pace. In the modern era, boredom is viewed as a deficiency to be cured by a smartphone screen. For a Xennial child, boredom was a baseline state of existence. In psychological terms, this environment fostered a high capacity for delayed gratification. When you wanted to talk to a friend, you didn't send a direct message, you called a landline, often risking a conversation with their parents first. You memorized phone numbers, a cognitive exercise in working memory that has largely vanished. You waited for your favorite television shows to air at a specific time. If you missed the broadcast, the cultural moment was simply gone. This appointment-based lifestyle ingrained a sense of temporal discipline. From a developmental perspective, this era prioritized presence. Because plans required absolute commitment, you couldn't text running 5 minutes late while standing at a bus stop. Xennials developed a high level of independence and a tolerance for uncertainty. Conversations happened face-to-face, and once they ended, they disappeared into the ephemeral safety of memory rather than a searchable chat history. This created a psychological safe zone where social mistakes weren't permanent records, allowing for a more courageous form of identity experimentation. Just as this cohort was stepping into the threshold of adulthood, the world underwent a seismic shift. The internet moved from a niche academic tool to a mainstream necessity. Mobile phones transitioned from heavy bricks in car consoles to extensions of the human hand. Neuroscience tells us that the prefrontal cortex, the region of the brain responsible for executive function, emotional regulation, and complex decision-making, continues to undergo significant pruning and development well into our mid-20s. For Xennials, this period of high brain plasticity coincided exactly with the birth of the digital age. This creates what we might call psychological bilingualism. Unlike digital natives who have no memory of a pre-connected world, or digital immigrants who often view technology as an external tool, Xennials occupy a middle ground. You are young enough that digital tools feel intuitive, yet old enough to remember the silence of the pre-digital world. You can navigate complex software with ease, but you inherently understand the value of unplugged experiences. You use technology as a bridge, whereas others often use it as a mirror or a cage. Before the rise of social media, personal history was largely biological. Embarrassing phases, fashion faux pas, and youthful indiscretions faded naturally. Human memory is designed to be fluid and selective. We retain the meaning of an event while the grainy details blur over time. This is a vital psychological mercy that allows for personal growth and the shedding of old identities. Xennials witnessed the death of this impermanence. They entered adulthood just as the digital footprint became a permanent ledger. Consequently, this microgeneration often holds a more guarded perspective on privacy and self-presentation. Psychologically, this manifests as a pre-digital internal compass. Xennials are often the most cautious demographic regarding oversharing. They possess a latent understanding of the sacredness of the unrecorded moment. They value the off-the-record conversation because they grew up in a world where everything was off the record by default. This creates a unique form of digital literacy, one rooted not just in how to use the tools, but in knowing when to put them away to protect one's mental health. The psychological profile of a generation isn't just shaped by toys and tech, it is forged in the fires of the economy. Many Xennials reached pivotal career milestones, buying first homes or seeking middle management roles exactly when the 2008 global financial crisis hit. Early adulthood is the life stage where individuals seek industry and stability. Encountering systemic collapse during this formative window leaves a lasting mark. Research suggests that financial hardship during these years influences risk-taking behavior for decades. This has gifted Xennials with a dual mindset. They are incredibly resilient and adaptable because they were forced to pivot before the word became a corporate cliché. However, they also harbor a deep-seated skepticism toward institutional stability. They learned early that the old rules, get a degree, stay at one company, and retire with a pension, were often a mirage. This makes them pragmatic survivors, often serving as the grounded voices in volatile corporate environments. Perhaps the most defining characteristic of this group is their psychological flexibility. They embody traits that seem diametrically opposed but coexist with natural ease. They possess an independence shaped by the latchkey childhood of the late 70s and early 80s, manifesting as self-reliance and the ability to solve problems without a tutorial. Simultaneously, they value collaboration, informed by the democratic, community-building nature of the early internet. They carry a healthy skepticism born from witnessing the fall of the Berlin Wall and the 2008 crash, yet they maintain a millennial-tinged optimism for social progress. Rather than feeling conflicted by these dualities, Xennials use them as a multi-tool. They can appreciate the warmth of a vinyl record while managing a complex cloud-based workflow. They are the world's cultural translators, capable of explaining the why of analog logic to younger generations and the how of digital execution to their elders. Being a bridge is an honorable role, but it is physically and mentally exhausting. In modern workplaces, Xennials often find themselves in the role of the intergenerational mediator. They are frequently the ones tasked with explaining data privacy to their parents while simultaneously coaching younger colleagues on the nuances of face-to-face conflict resolution. This can lead to a specific generational burnout, the heavy lifting of maintaining social cohesion in a fragmenting world. Xennials often feel like the last gatekeepers of a certain type of social etiquette, yet they are also the pioneers of the new digital frontier. They carry the weight of two eras on their shoulders. Ultimately, the Xennial experience is defined not by a sense of belonging, but by a sense of transition. This microgeneration highlights a profound truth: the environment we are raised in rarely matches the one we eventually inhabit. The ability to navigate that mismatch is perhaps the most valuable skill in an era of exponential change. Adaptability without the loss of self is the central theme of the Xennial story. If these descriptions resonate, it is because you have spent your life bridging the gap between the tactile past and the virtual future. That position isn't a flaw or a demographic accident, it is your greatest asset. In a world that continues to accelerate, those who have already lived through one total paradigm shift understand something essential: change doesn't just reshape society, it reshapes the soul. By keeping one foot in the dirt and one in the cloud, you possess a grounded perspective that is increasingly rare and increasingly necessary. Learning to evolve while keeping your feet on the ground might be the most important psychological skill of all. If you want to dive deeper into the psychology behind our daily behaviors, feel free to subscribe or join our community for more insights. Your focus is your most valuable resource, spend it on what makes you feel truly alive. Thanks for watching.